I'm not worried about internal damnation. My concern is simply to ensure that social justice prevail, not for a select few, but for everybody.
Today, the United Belize Advocacy Movement, UNIBAM, headed by its president Caleb Orozco, launched its campaign in its bid to defend the rights of same-sex unions. With the theme, We Are One, the organization garnered the support from key groups, including the National AIDS Commission and a member of the U.S. clergy. Orozco spared no words in responding to sharp criticisms from opponents of gay and lesbian life, at the core of which lies the local clergy.
My good friends at the Catholic Church needs to check their billion-dollar budget. My evangelical friends need to check their pastors. And my good friends at the Anglican Church needs to check their overdraft.
You say that in reference to?
I say that in reference to the resource challenges I know the Anglican Church have. I say that in reference to all the legal challenges relating to child abuse that have occurred around the world for the Catholic Church. And I say that in reference to the so-called Christian missionaries who pop up in Belize and go around molesting children. If they're going to call a spade, they need to reflect on themselves.
While the local churches and UNIBAM are at moral odds over this fundamental issue, one woman of God who supports respecting human rights explained that people need to understand the issue as laid out in the Bible.
There are 7 passages in Scripture used to denigrate members of the GLBT community. Some use those without taking into consideration the context. Earlier, a long time ago, it was once believed, and Genesis 1 supports that the world was flat, and those who believed otherwise were even put to death by the church. Education happens, we progress, and we realize that those people weren't wrong. It was just age-appropriate thinking.
But people will base their argument on the whole biblical portion that refers back to Sodom and Gomorrah.
There are discrepancies, there are arguments, there are issues that need to be discussed in ways that are rational without emotion. And I think we could, even on that scripture about Sodom and Gomorrah, talk about what that meant and how that is applied today and what was the context.
For chairperson of the National AIDS Commission, Mrs. Kathy Esquivel, it is just a matter of what you deem to be right from wrong.
Everybody has a right to their own moral and religious viewpoint, and they should try to live their own lives according to that. But we do not have a right to tell other people how to live their lives. So if you believe that it is a sin, then you should not do it. But I don't think that, if we took that, then adultery is a sin, and half of the people in fornication, even thinking about fornication, is a sin. And so if you believe that's wrong, then you should not do it. That's fine. But you don't have a right to push that on other people.
UNIBAM's legal team, which comprises senior counsel Lisa Showman, says that the law as it stands deprives people of same-sex unions from basic rights.
Section 3 of 53 of the Criminal Code will be held to be in violation of that, because it prescribes a penalty for an offense which is against human rights and fundamental rights and freedoms, most notably the right to privacy, also the right against discrimination. Also, the preamble to the Constitution says we're all endowed with inalienable rights by our Creator, meaning that those rights cannot be taken away. And in this case, we believe that the right to sexual orientation and the expression of that orientation is a fundamental human right. And it's not just a matter of people in Belize believing this. This is a universal human right. It has been declared so. The United Nations is affirming that sexual orientation is in fact a human right. And so it's not a matter of whether we're going to grant these rights or not. We have to. We are one. We're one Belizeans. We don't have rights for some Belizeans and no rights for other Belizeans.
And while Showman outlined the legal position on the matter, Orozco went further to argue that anyone who has had oral sex has committed an offense.
The issue of unnatural needs to be held within the context of case law. And in Commonwealth countries, the unnatural act that our religious opponents speak so strongly about also include oral sex, masturbation, anti-sex. So if you want to argue about the issue of unnatural as a definition, then they need to recognize that every single person who has had sex in this country has committed an unnatural act.
Reporting for Love News, I am Marian Ali.
Raising 2 beautiful children.
I've been in a committed relationship for 4 years.